Good day, students. This video is about the part-time employee subclass, which is part of our employee task that we are busy discussing. The task is about how to code inheritance, how to make it work. We already talked about the superclass employee and the full-time employee subclass. Now we are at step 3 of our solution, coding the part-time employee subclass. So for the part-time employee, we need the number of hours worked and the rate per hour. So those will be declared as private instance fields. We need the default and the parameterized constructor. We also need, in terms of methods, we need the accessor methods for the two instance fields and the method to calculate the salary. We also need a toString method to complete the string that's already compiled by the superclass. For this particular type of employee, we also need hours worked, hourly rate, and the salary. So we need to add those items to our superclass string. So let's quickly have a look at the code. In terms of the code, is our inheritance. So as part of the heading of your part-time employee class, you extends employee, which is your superclass. Then you code your two instance field as private instance field. Your default constructor must be coded, and then you have your parameterized constructor. All of this similar to the other subclass that we already did. In the parameterized constructor, remember that the subclass must receive all the instance fields, all the attributes. The first statement inside your parameterized constructor is a call to the superclass parameterized constructor. You do that by using the super keyword without a dot and then list the parameters that must be transferred constructor, which is the name, the ID number, and married. The two local attributes, you'll use the parameter values and assign those to your local private attributes in this constructor. Then you need your two getters, there we have those, and you need a method to calculate the salary. In the toString method, you will again, as in the other subclass, call the superclass toString method using the super keyword dot. Because remember, if you call a method from the superclass, you use super dot and then the name of that method. We need to add 3 items to the string that will be received. That will be the hours worked, the rate, and the salary. For the salary, we'll just call our local calculate salary method to calculate the salary for us. In the formatting string, remember, you need the percentage %S formatting item for the string that you will receive from your constructor, from your superclass. Following that, you need the specific formatting information for the 3 items that you are adding to the toString that you'll receive from your superclass. All right, so let's quickly then have a look at the 4th step of our solution. The final step is to write the test class. So in step 4, you'll get the specifications for the test class. It says declare 2 arrays, one for the full-time employees and one for the part-time employees. Also, write code to ask the user to enter information of all the employees. That is in order to populate the 2 arrays. If the employee is a full-time employee, the object must go into the full-time array, and the other objects must go into the part-time array. Fortunately, in this example, they give us an example of our input. It says here that enter the information of a number of employees, which means that we need a kind of a loop because there are probably more than one employee. How the loop must look like is not specified in the wording of the example, but it gives you a screenshot of what is expected. Here you can see the loop is controlled by the name variable. So if X is entered, the loop will be terminated instead of the name. So we use X as a sentinel value kind of to control our loop. It asks for the name, the ID number, the marital status, and then there's a question. Is the employee a full-time employee, yes or no? This is important because you can't ask for a basic salary if this employee is not a full-time employee. So the questions that you ask in your loop depends on what type of employee it is. Apart from the first three. The first three elements is fine. It applies to all employees. That's why you ask a name, ID number, and marital status to everybody. But you have to know whether your employee is a full-time or part-time of the questions. So, is the employee full-time? If it's yes, then you ask the basic salary, and that's it. That's all you need for full-time employee. The loop must start again. Susan, the ID number, marital status, is it a full-time employee? If no, then you ask the hours and the rate per hour. So this is handy because analyzing your screenshot here will give you an indication of what the code must look like. Then you need to write two static methods to display the information, and then they all. So let's quickly have a look at the code. The first thing you do is you declare your arrays. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this because you already know how to do this. Then you also, as we said in our discussion just now, you do the loop to enter the one by one. And here you can see, is it a full-time employee, yes or no? If it's yes, then you ask the salary. Following on to that, you can now create the object because you've got all the information. You've got the name, ID number, married, and the basic salary for the full-time employee. So you create the object, assign it to the array, and increment the counter for this array. Else, the hourly rate, construct the object and assign it to your array. Increment the counter, and then you ask the question, enter the next name, X to stop the loop. So that's all in your main method. Then you call the two display methods to display the list of full-time employees and part-time employees. In this method, almost like all our previous displays with an array, you receive the array for this particular object type and the counter. Have a heading and subheadings before the loop. Remember, you only display those once, and then you start displaying the content of the array. Inside the array, from the array full-time, position K, call the toString method. So you do that for your full-time employees and for your part-time employees. The headings will be different, the subheadings will be different, the content of the except from the array that you are working and the counter of the loop. So that is then the test class. Example, please look at all of this. Let me just close here. Look at all of this and then close it and start coding this example yourself to see whether you can do this on your own. Good luck.